Okay, welcome. We're going to be breaking down how time travel works in the Atom Project using MS Paint because it's super fun and I have a good time when I do it. So, essentially, in the Atom Project, Mark Ruffalo's character, Lewis Reed, he invents time travel. So, typically, the way in which we've seen time travel is let's say that this is the main timeline. If you were in the future and you traveled into the past, if you change something into the past, then a branch reality would be created, and that would be the new timeline. That's not how time travel works in this. Another form of time travel would be the Avengers equivalent of time travel, which is essentially there's one timeline, and if you travel into the past, you were always destined to travel into the past. So it's essentially a loop that never ends. Then, of course, we are also familiar with the Back to the Future timeline, which is essentially the same thing as the Flash timeline, which is if you're in the future and you go to the past, if you change something in the past, this entire thing gets erased and a new timeline is created. Usually, that is the way in which new timelines are generally created on a consistent basis. That is not how time travel works in the Atom Project. So, in the Atom Project, let's say there is one timeline, right? You are in the future. If you were to travel into the past and interact with your past self, yes, the timeline would reset and create a new branch timeline where you still exist in this timeline and any changes that you made have essentially come into effect. But unlike most of those other timelines, if you are the individual who changes the timeline, you remember the changes. So the villain, Maya Sorian, when she went into her past and she essentially changed it to benefit her, when she returned back to her future, she returned back to the future in which she was essentially a dictator, where she was running things in the future and she was in control of everything. For Adam, when he went into the past, create a new timeline down here. When he went into the past, he first interacted with his younger self. Now, interacting with his younger self should have instantaneously erased him. However, the way in which Adam explains it is that temporally, he can't retain the data. Essentially, while they're together, they're both going to have memories of the time in which they spent together. However, when they become apart, both him and his younger self will forget that they've ever encountered. This is some time travel type shit that you would only see on Doctor Who, where if you're a Whovian, you remember when the three doctors got together? I'm talking about Tennant, Matt Smith, and the War Doctor. Why am I forgetting his name? We're just going to call him the War Doctor for right now. Essentially, it was the 10th, 11th, and a previous incarnation, to which the 11th incarnation asks the 10th, do you remember anything that happened? And he's like, no. And he's probably like, well, that's probably because you can't retain it. Once you leave this timeline, it's essentially going to set and you're going to forget these memories. Are going to be locked away. So what happens? He grabs his younger self. He goes further into the past to essentially get his dad and to stop all of this from happening. They stop all of this from happening and the timeline essentially resets. Now, there's a new timeline that ends up getting created from this. And in that new timeline, Sorian is dead. We see that she essentially kills herself at the climax of the film. So in this new timeline, she does not exist. Also, their father doesn't pursue his time travel creation. So as a result, time travel does not exist. However, so the younger Adam returns back to his timeline, and the older Adam returns back to his timeline. Neither of them remember the journey in which they've been on. However, because they spend so much time together, Zoe Saldaña's character says that they may retain the feelings. As a result, when younger Adam returns back to his mother, he remembers that his older self told him to both love and cherish his mother as much as his father because you don't know how much time you're going to have with her. And when older Adam returns back to his timeline in the future, which you can't see the older Adam thing because my webcam's in the way, but just imagine that there's like a circle like right here. There's a circle right down here. It's down here. When the older Adam returns back to the future, he returns back to the pilot training course, and he runs into Zoe Saldaña's character again, and they both instantly have a spark and run off to essentially start their relationship. I like the way in which time travel works in this. I also like the fact that they call individuals castaways, and what essentially that means is if you're from this timeline and you leave this timeline and you go to a new timeline, and let's say you go here, if your character is killed, essentially the universe does not like the fact that a remnant from another timeline is on a new timeline, and you just get de-atomized. And I absolutely love that. I like that it answers a question of what would happen if a time traveler from another timeline comes into the past and dies. Essentially, there'll be nothing left of him. Everything about that individual instantaneously dies, and they just poof into the ether. And that's dope as shit, because typically when in other time travel things, when you get killed in the past, your body is left there, and it's like, well, yeah, but what if somebody like digs up your body and finds you? That doesn't happen in this movie. I hope that clears it up for some people. I love doing time travel shit on MS Paint because I think it's fun as fuck. I did this for The Flash like forever ago, explaining all of its like loopy and absolutely insane timelines at like 4 a.m. But yeah, if you're confused by the Adam Project's timeline nonsense shenanigans, I hope that this cleared it up for you. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.